My name is Ayana Christie. I'm the creator of Promoted to Founder. Today I'm going to be talking to Jenni Chavis about her Promoted to Founder journey. She's going to be a lawyer who's participating as a host of the Promoted to Founder Getaway DC, giving us all the information that we need about legal foundations to go from corporate to professional independent with absolute ease. Take a look. So, Jenni,
Okay.
we're here because we want to know about your journey from being in
Mhm,
corporate, having your career, and becoming a business
mhm.
owner, becoming professionally independent. What does that journey look like for you? And feel free to sprinkle
Sure.
in, when it happened, how long you were thinking about it before you made the move, etc.
Mm. Sure. I love that you called it a journey because that's exactly what it has been. I had a really great, comfortable job working as a prosecutor. It was the type of job where people stay there for their entire careers. I then made a switch and moved over to Commonwealth into state government, very much so the corporate field, but obviously on the public sector. And again, in an agency where people stay there forever, it is their entire career. And in that process, I realized that it was not fulfilling, that I wasn't doing the type of lawyering, or I wasn't being as impactful as I really wanted to be when I initially became a lawyer. And so I had the opportunity to then transition and to start my own firm. And so in doing that, I started off with the low hanging fruit with doing criminal defense, something that was really very familiar to me. And that I thought, well, this is the way in which I'm going to impact my community. But it was really disheartening that I had clients, or I'm meeting people who just seemed trapped within the system, and I thought there has to be a better way. And I didn't want to be a part of an assembly line that was just rubber stamping people being warehoused for the rest of their lives. And what I noticed is that the clients I started interacting with who were coming to me not for criminal cases, but for business questions, the ones that leaned into entrepreneurship were the ones who did not go back into the system. It was the something that reduced the recidivism rate because they were now working on something that they owned and that they loved and that they were passionate about. They weren't limited by an employer saying, well, because of your background, you can't go any further than this. They were now carving out their own path. When COVID hit and I began working with nurses who were leaving the bedside in their profession and were opening up their own businesses. And so a lot of them were women. Some of them had had full blown careers, like they could have retired. And some of them did retire, in fact, from working bedside. And they wanted someone to walk them through the legal process of now this brand new chapter. A lot of them, it was easy for them to grasp because these are educated professional women, the concepts of the legal structures and entities, but their biggest hangup was believing in themselves enough to do it. And so that's when I really started focusing in on serving women, particularly who are in their second act, who need not only the legal support, but need to be empowered into walking into that next chapter of life. And then that's when the bell went off for me. The light bulb went off. Like, this is how I'm impacting others by not only giving them legal support, but also, the moral support of you can do this. There's no reason why you can't. Let's just get this going so you can live out the dream for whatever your next phase might be.
That's incredible. And I love that you started with something that was close to your what you were already doing. You started with criminal law, like that's
Mhm.
something that felt like it was a natural transition and then kind of kept snowballing from there. How did you get connected with nurses in particular?
Sure. So my last tour of duty with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was working with professional licensure boards. So I was a prosecutor on one side and became a hearing examiner. So I became very familiar with the laws pertaining to nurses who might be going through disciplinary issues. So as I was in private practice and with my firm, and I'm advertising to nurses, starting to meet them, my name is getting out there. Once the pandemic hit, and because now all my branding and my marketing was geared towards nurses, drawing them in for the professional licensure part of it, they started contacting me, well, hey, I want to leave the profession this way and work on this side in this capacity as an entrepreneur. So it just sort of naturally just flowed. And once it's just great word of mouth. Once you talk to one nurse, your name just sort of gets out there, and somehow they just started calling. And then I connected with an organization that was also giving the substantive information and training for nurses who went to open up their own IV hydration or med spa businesses. And so I was able to connect with them, and they asked me to start doing some of their trainings for the legal portion of business ownership. And from there, it just really took off. And I just knew that it was almost that coming home feeling of working with business owners, particularly women who were trying to, do the next phase.
Incredible. And what I hear from your story is there is this concept of when you take that first step, the other steps start
Mhm.
to reveal themselves. And I think
Yes.
people get really caught up in like, I don't have an idea for a business. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. They're thinking about
Mhm.
this fully baked concept that needs to skyrocket into a seven-figure business overnight. And that's just not how business works, right? And so I love that in your story as well, in many of our stories, like we just kind of took that first step and the next step arrived, and the next step and the next step. And
Mhm.
yes, we are building this concept to help people, navigate some of those first steps, quickly and efficiently. But in terms of really leaning
Mhm.
into entrepreneurship, it truly is about letting every action kind of flow into the other and letting it be natural. So I
Yeah.
love I love hearing
You
that
are
in your story.
100% correct that if you take the one first step,
Hmm.
my goodness, everything else will reveal itself. There was the gentleman who created Priceline, and he also created the kiosks in the airport where you do the self check-in. I forget his name. Jeff is his first name. I was
Okay.
listening to him talk, and he was saying that when you are willing to execute, when you take that first step, it's almost like you go out in front of your house and you're digging a ditch. What will happen is a guy will walk past and say, "Hey, I used to work for the power lines. Don't dig over here, dig over
Yes.
here because you're going to strike something." But had you not gone out and start
Right.
digging the ditch, that person never would have found you. That's
Exactly.
exactly what it's you're so afraid to go out to start digging that ditch, but that's the
Mhm.
only way you get
Yes.
the information on the next thing.
Yes,
That's the only way it happens.
exactly. Yeah, I love that analogy. I think that's perfect. Why
Yeah.
did you say yes to being a part of the Promoted to Founder getaway? What about this particular work or this particular opportunity called you to say yes?
I loved your messaging because you are inspiring people to leave what they might consider to be comfortable, but they know isn't the right fit for them right now. And
Mm,
that there is this second part, there's this next phase, another chapter of their lives. And that message just resonates so strongly with me because it was my story. That you're having someone to come along inside and say, just turn the page.
yes.
You're not done with your book. Turn the page. There's a whole other chapter. That's a beautiful thing for people to realize that as long as you are breathing, you have continued value. There's
Absolutely.
continued hope. There's something more. And
Hmm.
so I love it. It's something I'm passionate about. I loved how you presented it. And it's just an honor to be a part of it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's definitely been a blessing to be connected with you. And I was connected with your energy. Like I reached out to you on a whim and you were like, yeah, let's meet, let's
Mhm.
chat, let's connect. And that is the best
Yes.
type of synergy in my mind. Yes, thank you for all of that. Like, I feel like you already answered so many of the questions that I was gonna ask you.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, how would you
Yeah.
describe the thing that you probably maybe didn't even
Mm.
realize would be the value that you have now?
Yeah. I think it is breaking past the fear.
Mhm.
And then, well, there's really a process. The first step is saying the words, "I am a business owner." So it's seeing myself as that, and it's almost giving myself the permission to call myself by that name and not really being focused on, well, do other people see me that way? Or how do I see myself? Because that's really where it all starts. People, you could be in business for 10, 20, 30 years, and maybe no one else has value in what you do as a business owner. And it doesn't matter. It's you, the person who is stepping out into that venture, what you call yourself. And so that was transformational because it changed how I saw and how I spoke about myself. And so then that's the next step of, man, this is really scary. I can't believe I'm doing it. And then taking that step. So the next level of transformation is getting past the messaging. Well, who do you think you are that you think you
Yes.
can do that? And so it's really a combination of both.
Yes.
It is how others see us, how we see ourselves, and the fear. But once you get past that point, like, well, but why not me?
Right.
And that really was when all the light bulbs went off, when I finally got to that point of saying, "Well, other people have done it.
Mhm.
Why not me? What's different about me than that person? Oh, there's nothing? Oh, I'm later in life. I already have all these years in this other career. I'm over 40. I can't do it." Who cares? Who cares? And so once that happened, that's where all the transformation took place. And that then just scaffolded to the next thing. Like, oh yeah, of course I could do it. I can work in criminal law because that's what I know, criminal defense. But now I'm going to estate planning. I'm going to go into business
Yes.
formation.
Mhm.
Just believe in yourself. And when you get past that one little first step, it's as if the whole world opens up
Sense,
to
right?
you. And now I've started like 2 other businesses.
Wow, exactly. It just starts to kind of a snowball effect. And that makes a lot of sense when
Mhm.
you said like that first step is getting through that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So when you think about this concept of being in your current career, your current profession, the thing that you thought you were going to be doing for so long, and started to think
Mm.
outside of that, when you reflect on that moment for yourself, was there something really specific that happened that made you realize that you needed to own your expertise that made you start to shift in that direction?
Sure. So, and speaking of being over 40, so at that time I was working for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and I had what they would say a good government job. And then with government, administrations change. And so when that happens, your job technically isn't safe. You could be let go because it's at the will of the governor or the current administration. And so there was a chief counsel over the agency where I was working, and he was letting people go over 40, particularly women. And one of my dear friends was let go. And I'm encouraging her, like, oh my goodness, you're going to bounce back. It'll be great. You can do this. And as I'm explaining it to her, I'm like, this sounds kind of good. Like, why wouldn't I give this a shot? So it really was being proactive. It really was taking that ownership of my life that I didn't want to be passive, waiting to see what would happen. I decided I'm going to take charge and I'm going to do this thing. And so I think that's really what made me want to jump into this journey and made me want to go down this pathway is just, something that was negative and just being able to spin it into something positive. Not sure if that was exactly what you're asking, but that was at least the
Definitely.
split.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded like you were witnessing someone going through that push, if you will, and then realizing, wait a minute,
Mhm.
maybe I can prepare before that push comes my way as well. And I think that's so many people's
Yeah.
story.
Mhm.
Okay, so when we think about now moving into that space and like kind of taking the step over the threshold, if you will, what's one thing you
Mhm.
wish someone had told you about legal, finance, or branding before you left your criminal law career?
Mm. Wow, that's really good. I really wish I would have learned more about building community with other like-minded business owners.
Mhm.
Because I think when you hear it from in the trenches, you're getting the real raw story versus and I know this I don't not self-serving, but or maybe self-sacrificing. But sometimes when you hear it from a legal professional or from someone who may be, working in the industry, you're wondering like, is that really what it's like, or are you trying to sell me in the moment? So I wish I would have built community to hear from other women, other people who were going down this pathway. Like, what is your experience? What are the pitfalls that I really need to be mindful of? And when you hear that story is not to be scared away, but is to inform you so that when you're sitting down to talk to the professional, you are now also armed with information. There's also some comfort that comes by being in a community with other people. Just probably in the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I started venturing out and building more community, and that has really changed the game for me because there is the safety and numbers impact as well, but then it's also being able to now apply or get wisdom because of someone else's experience. And I think it felt like it was so lonely, and entrepreneurship can be extremely you can feel extremely lonely. You spend a lot of time by yourself sometimes. And I think when you have that community in place, it really takes away that sense of isolation or that I'm the only one going through this or no one knows the trouble I've seen. But I think that really does help to have that support, someone to walk with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think community is a big one that I also missed. I'm naturally an
Mm.
introvert. I naturally work really well by myself. And so in this space,
Mhm.
I built multiple businesses just thinking I can just work on it. It's gonna be so good. People are
Mhm.
gonna want to buy it. And knowing community is a part of
Yeah.
sales as well. Of being able to actually get people to
Yes.
find what you've built in your cave. Okay,
Mhm. Right.
so what do you think about these misconceptions or like these mistakes? And we're here because we want to help more women to transition
Mhm.
from corporate or a career or a profession into professional independence
Mhm.
and make that journey much smoother for them. What's the biggest
Yeah.
misconception these women might have about your domain of legal structures when they're making that
Sure.
transition?
So, one thing for sure is that it's going to be too complicated. So sometimes there's a sense that anything dealing with legalities It's going to be so over the common person's head that it's just going to be something you don't want to deal with because you're not going to understand it. It isn't difficult to understand. Now, of course, there is a sense, I just use the word self-serving. There's a sense of self-preservation within the profession that we don't want people to think, oh, it's just so easy, you can do it on your own, because therefore, what would you need lawyers for? There's that sense of self-protection within the profession. But it's a sense of thinking that you can't understand the process or that you can't be involved in the process when you absolutely can. The great thing about living in 2026 is the availability of information and education. And we
Yes.
can get the tools that we need to be informed. And a lot of the times we hold ourselves back because we don't know. Or we think, well, I don't know what that means when you have a legal structure, an entity. I don't know what trademarks mean. Maybe you don't feel confident filing your own trademark, but you can absolutely find out what it entails. And that will empower you with how you begin to brand your business, how you're planning for the future just by arming yourself with that information. A lot of misconception is because the cost is going to be so cost prohibitive. If I hire an attorney, I'm just going to do it on my own. But don't let the cost do it. Most attorneys, really great ones who are in the business of wanting to educate their clients, and there are a lot out there. You can just look at their website, talk to them. You can see the ones that want to educate you and empower you. Sit down and have the conversation with them. You would be amazed. And I have had so many people, whether it's clients or people that I'm just having coffee with, when they realize that it's not that difficult, when they realize that the process isn't as convoluted as they thought, it's like a sense of their shoulders dropping and they feel relieved. And even in that sense, like, yeah, I can do this. Let's go.
Yeah, like
And that's the goal. That's what I want people to feel.
yeah, that makes sense, like, one less thing that is giving them anxiety, essentially. It kinda sounds like you're saying, like, this
Exactly.
apprehension can then be reduced. Okay, I love that.
Agree.
Excellent. My last question here is, if you could only give the women that we're talking about, women who are we're just saying, "Just turn the page, so the steps will a appear for you. We're here to support you." If you could only give those women one piece of advice about legal structuring in particular before they launch, what would it be?
Mm. Ooh, wow. Man, that's really good. I'm going to keep it really simple, and it's something that's going to sound very obvious. Consult with an attorney. And here's
Yes.
why. You sit down and you just have someone who's knowledgeable just to talk it out. The giant gets way smaller. It will save you time and effort down the road. And that way you're going through it with some support. And also know this, it's not as hard as what you think it is. It truly is not. It truly is not. You are building a team. The attorney's not the person dragging you through. It's just build the team of people who are going to support you in it, because the reality is you're going to find a lot of people, not a lot. You're going to find some people who may not support you. So build the team of people who are going to walk with you through this process, not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely back to that, original concept of community, which is so important. I think
Mhm.
especially now a lot of people are feeling more and more isolated. It really does make a big
Yeah.
difference. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This is exciting. I love hearing everybody's stories about going from promoted to being promoted to founder. Your promoted to founder is powerful. And I hope that someone else hears this and sees the power waiting for them on the other side of that page.
Well, thank you so much. It's
Of
just, I'm
course.
so honored. Thank you.
Thank you.